General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
It's time to defend the border, defend Israel, defeat Marx, defeat Mohammad, and make America great again. Welcome to Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
Hey, it's showtime on Monday morning, March 3rd, 2025. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. What a weekend. Well, we told you, give us 30 minutes on a Monday morning. We'll give you the rest of the week. We're going to lay out a bunch of stuff today. Two interesting, fascinating topics today. Cair, Council on American Islamic Relations, that terrorist organization. I mean, they're full colors are out now, but we've known this for 20 years. They had an interesting a disposal of a lawsuit against one of the Muslimina women who filed suit. We're going to get to that in a little bit. And then we're going to look at what's going on in Syria. Syria is an ancient country, Damascus, an ancient city, well known in biblical terms for Jewish people, Christian people. Now the whole world, we have an expert. We have an expert with us a little later in the show who worked with the Central Intelligence Agency, has been in Damascus over 100 times. He's going to help us understand what's going on there and how it affects us here. But as many of you know, I have spent a lot of time in the world of theology and philosophy, and one of my all-time favorite philosopher theologians is Blase Pascal, born in the 1620s, lived about 40 years, a child prodigy, Pascal was, and he was a mathematician at 12, 13, 14 years old, writing these complicated math formula. In fact, he's attributed with his calculations resulting in the first mechanical calculator. He was a philosopher. He's best known for his sort of philosophical, theological views on life, but he excelled at everything. Born in France, he originated public transportation with a horse and carriage in France in the 1600s, the first grid of moving people around publicly. So we're not talking about some like normal guy. This guy's off the charts, intelligent, brilliant. And he came up with a concept that 400 years ago that became articulated as a God-shaped void in each individual. It is critically important if you want to understand the nature of things as they are and as they should be. If you want to understand what's going on in the Ukraine, political issues, what's going on with my spouse, if you want to understand, at least have the foundation for the totality of understanding information from a truthful perspective, we need to listen to Pascal. Here's what he said when he was about 30 years old. He said, "What else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim?" He's struggling. What else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim? But there was once in a man true happiness. So he's saying things aren't right. Things probably were right at one point, a true happiness, of which all that now remains is the empty print and trace. I know something was there, and I have a print of it, a trace of it. Then man tries to fill in vain with everything around him. So you got this emptiness, and man, by his nature, tries to fill in vain everything around him, seeking the things that are not there, and then the help of those that cannot find that which is in need. So man tries to fill this void with stuff that isn't there, or with finding something that won't be the right answer, though none can help, since this infinite abyss can only be filled with an infinite and unchangeable object, in other words, by God himself. Pascal wrote that 350 years ago, and through the millennia, it became known as there's a God-shaped void inside everyone. Follow the theory, whether you believe in God or not. Just follow the theory. If something inherently is missing in our life, and we have frustration when we try to figure out and analyze and all of this, Pascal says, good luck. Good luck trying to figure it out by going to an area which doesn't have the answer, or going to answers which you don't understand. The only way to fill this infinite void is with an infinite God. And I'm a firm believer of that. And I think it's a good thought to kick off the week that if you are experiencing a void in your life and you're trying to fill it with sex, drugs, rock and roll, academics, television, movies, sit down, listen to the words of Blase Pascal, one of the most intelligent men that ever lived on the face of the earth, when he says there's only one way to fill a God-shaped void, with God. Hey, great show today. Cair, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And for those of you in the audience, this is our second show. Tell your friends. We're here every Monday, 10:30 to 11 o'clock East Coast time. We are going to have the audience participate by going to the Q&A section, typing in any question in the world. I got every answer you can imagine. Why? Because I can check it out on this thing right here. Plus, we have a great staff. We've got a couple of staff people with us today, with Mark piloting the show, Mary standing close by if necessary. Mayor Deb's going to handle the Q&A. So push this out. Tell your friends to come, and we'll have a good time for a half hour live every Monday. Cair, over the weekend, a few days ago, settled a case, and the New York Post laid it out beautifully. Controversial Muslim charity accused of links to Hamas settles lawsuit rather than disclosing the sources of funding. I mean, that sentence is beautiful. This young lady here, Lori Soroya, she was actually a councilwoman in a Minnesota town, a very intelligent lady, and then worked on the board of Cair for 6 or 7 years. She is no slouch. In her experience with Cair, she felt that she was discriminated against sexually, and she felt there was inappropriate financial behavior on the part of Cair. Well, they filed a lawsuit saying that she was defaming them. She stood her ground, Muslim woman. She stood her ground wonderfully so. Cair backed off, canceled the defamation case. She filed a lawsuit saying, screw you guys. You want to play with me? Let's go. And she got good lawyers, and they start digging into Cair. And, Cair plays the lawyer game. They try to obfuscate everything. But this got to a judge, and the judge said, guess what, Niadawad? Guess what, Corey? Guess what, everybody over in Washington, D.C. and Tampa and your 31 other chapters? Lori can look at your books in discovery. She's going to find out where you're getting your money. The last thing Cair wants anybody to know is where they're getting their money. Back in 2008-9, the Holy Land Foundation out of Richardson, Texas, collected money for poor people in Gaza and went to Hamas to kill Jews. The court found that out. Cair was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator, 2008, 2009. That means that we're watching you, Cair. We're not going to indict you right now because we're running more investigations, all of this. And but we reserve the right to indict you based upon the factual information we have received in this massive court case. Obama comes in, takes Cair's unindicted co-conspirator status, throws it in the garbage can. But a week after October 7th, 2023, Nihat Awad, the potentate, the caliphate of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. Actually, he's about second or third in charge. He thinks he's in charge, but he's second or third in charge. He goes to a conference and he lets his jihad out that Hamas are the freedom fighters. Israel has no right to defend themselves. He made statements which we all know he believes, but out of his Armani suit and his chapstick lips comes these words, and Joe Biden flips out because Joe had put Nihat and Cair on it. Get this, an anti-Semitism study group to stop anti-Semitism. One of the biggest Jew haters in America was on an anti-Semitism. Biden threw him off. Thank God you did the right thing, Joe Biden. Enjoy your years of retirement. And now we know who Cair is. But our good friend from Florida, State Representative Randy Fine, who is now running for the U.S. Congress, January 24, 2024, he said, screw Cair. He's had a long-running battle with Cair. He said, screw them. I am putting a resolution through the Florida House. We're throwing Cair the hell out of Florida. And here's the opening statement of Randy's resolution, which passed massively in Florida. People don't know. This is on the books in Florida. It's a resolution to strongly encourage all executive agencies, that's any public working agency in the state of Florida, all law enforcement agencies, everything from state police to FDLE to local police, all local governments, over 400 of them in this state, so about 500 different entities, to suspend contact and outreach activity with the Council on American Islamic Relations. Get rid of them. That's what Randy Fine said, and he's going into the U.S. Congress. Keep your eye on Cair. We will do a lot of expose on them. But now we want to move from what's happening with Cair, not only in the state of Florida, everywhere, to what's happening about 7,000 miles away in the historic country of Syria. And to help us with that, our good friend, as I said, he spent many years in the CIA, Peace Corps before that. Jeff Sanow, come on, Jeff. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you today, Tom?
Good, good. Give us 30 seconds on what you did with your life, and then we're going to help everyone understand what's going on in Syria, because it's so critical to the Middle East right now.
I was an operations officer in the CIA. My job is steal secrets and recruit spies. I was very good at it. I retired, or I got out, I should say, as a senior intelligence service officer. In that capacity, I was able to travel to Syria many, many times, probably 100 times. So I was able to see it at the ground level, which I think is important. I think it's important to understand that Syrians are just like everybody else. They want to feed their families. They want their kids to grow up and be healthy and all those kinds of things. And I had a great time there. I took my family there. It was a wonderful place. It has a critical place in our biblical history. When you go back to Damascus in the early Christianity, it was the second most important city in the new Christian world. So it's just a fascinating place, and I loved every trip I went on when I went there.
All right, Jeff, a guy was born in 1982, Ahmed al-Shara, and he was born in Riyadh, but grew up in... Oh, I got to do it? Yeah. All right. Some guy, Ahmed al-Shara, was born in Riyadh, 1982, Saudi Arabia, then moved to Damascus and really grew up in Damascus. In his early 20s, he became a freedom fighter against the Americans who were in Syria. and he wound up in Camp Bucca, that famous Camp Bucca, 2006 through 2011. Became part of Al Qaeda, fighting Assad, and he migrated to different terrorist organizations from a Sunni side. Well, trained over the past few years by Toiki, and in a lightning blitzkrieg like we've never seen, he and his fighters defeated Assad, threw him out. He's in Russia, and he's running. He is a former terrorist, put on a suit and tie, and his organization, HTS, Hayat Hashem, he's running Syria, and his new name is Golani. He wants the Golan Heights. What is this guy doing, and what should our concern, and what should Israel's concern be?
Well, let's just reflect ever so briefly on the Assad regime. They were not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. They were politically repressive. But one thing that they did was that they respected all the religious cultures that were in Syria at the time. And they continued to do so right up until the very end. They did that because the Assad family were Alawites, which is a religious minority. So it was possible to be a Christian, whatever you needed to be in Syria. That has all pretty much gone out the window. They have removed all crosses in any public buildings. No priest is allowed to go out on the streets dressed as a priest. Keep in mind that roughly 10% of the population of Syria is Christian. And yet they're not going to fare well under the Islamic regime as they are shut down in all areas, as typically happens. Yes, the Syrian government, much like the Pakistani government, will make nice noises about protecting religious liberties, but the reality is they won't.
Mark's putting up a couple of pictures of Al-Jolani, and that's him kind of in his transition. Mark, I just sent you another picture of him in his earlier days as a jihadi. And we also see, Jeff, that Israel, and when we take our tours, and we're planning one in 2026, but we may be doing one a little earlier in June if you're interested. Write your questions, ladies and gentlemen, in the Q&A. We're going to get to those in a couple of minutes. When we take people up in the Golan to the northern part, the northeastern part of Israel, we're 50 miles from Damascus, overlooking Syria and the Golan. In fact, on one of our non-sponsored trips, a group of us from the United West flew a drone over Syria, which I don't think was allowable. So don't anybody say anything about that. We were watching the soldiers down there. It was interesting. Israel was very concerned about south of Damascus, and they started bombing different terrorist entities. I think we have an article on that, Mark, from Al Jazeera. What's going on there, Jeff? Why is Israel bombing the new guy?
Well, I think Israel is doing what Israel does best, and that is they're taking preemptive action to prevent future attacks. And that's what this is. They're aware of security threats, terrorist threats that are building in the southern part of Syria, which is because keep in mind Damascus is in the south, so just south of Damascus. They are preventing threats from developing. It's exactly the same thing they did after Assad fled, where they went in and I think they bombed all of the chemical weapons facilities that were in Syria. They're being proactive because they don't want the threat. I think that whatever lessons they learned from October 7th, being proactive was probably at the top of that list. So they are proactively bombing to prevent future terrorist attacks.
Well, that's not a bad idea at all to do something like that. We have a map, and the map, Mark will put it up, indicates, looks like a pizza pie or something that you gave to a 3-year-old to cut up a pizza pie, all the different areas. I think if we look at this, you could help explain to us what's going on in the formerly wonderful pre-Assad years, country of Syria. What's happening right now with all those different colors there?
Well, I think under Assad, the Kurds had the territory that's in purple, and they simply maintained that territory. And they have a long-running conflict with the Turks, and that will continue. The red is the part that the Syrian government currently controls. And so those are the two biggest areas that there are. But the reality is, unfortunately, Syria is going to dissolve into somewhat of the tribal nature that has been created. So you have the Kurds in the purple off to the northeast. You have the Syrian government on the west, and then you have everybody else kind of mixed in. You have additional Turkish military activity, which is the yellow, because they are in a constant battle with the Kurds, because the Kurds want part of Turkey to be free or whatever, however they want to explain it. But that's, again, that is a long-running conflict. Syria and much of the Middle East could be explained with the phrase a long-running conflict. Hopefully, we will see that conflict come to an end. However, the U.S. supports the Kurds, and that's where the oil happens to be. We do have the outpost there that's just over the border from Iraq. I'm not sure that does much except give us a footprint, which is important. The Russians also have a footprint there, and that will remain from the last news article I saw, where they will continue to be active in Syria. You're going to have, as you and I discussed at a recent meeting, you're going to have ongoing conflict from Syria. Again, Assad was not a nice guy. I'm not saying that at all. He was an iron-fisted ruler. And so now we're having all these conflicts come out that were brewing under him. And so Israel is being preemptive in trying to control those as it may impact them.
All right. One of our trips early on, 2017, I think, Israel had a good neighbor program where up in the Northeast, they were helping the Syrians. It's called a good neighbor program, who were under the attack from still the civil war going on from 2011 in Syria. The Syrians who were under attack and refugees, Israel was doing cross-border work to help them. Well, it came out years later publicly. We kind of knew early on it was an intelligence operation where Israel was assisting, but they were gaining all kinds of intelligence on the bad guys who were encroaching upon the Israeli border. So they are very well in tune, Israel, with the problems in Syria, but they don't need more problems. In fact, one of our trips to Israel, we met with the Grand Potentate of the Kurds in Israel in a private meeting in his home, about 6 of us. And they're an interesting group. I think there's about 30 million Kurds spread over 3 countries, Turkey, Iraq, Syria. It's the largest group of people on the face of the earth that don't have their own country, and they need their own country. There's some terrorist elements to the Kurds, but basically they're absolutely wonderful people, fierce fighters. The women are fierce fighters. And Netanyahu and the Israeli government, Jeff, seem to be reaching out saying, hey, don't screw with the Kurds, al-Jilani. You're going to be messing with us. What do you think about that?
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's who was the Chinese Sun Tzu, I think was his name, the Chinese philosopher that first said that.
Yes,
so it makes perfect sense that they're going to want to support them. And then when you add to the mix Turkey, who is no friend of Israel, they were once, now they're not. It's just going to get increasingly complex. And Israel, as we have seen, is going to do everything they can to prevent and work with allies that will help them prevent any type of repeat of October 7, at least in our lifetime or the foreseeable future. So it makes perfect sense that they are partnering with the Kurds. The Kurds, they're great fighters. I just saw a picture, and you talked about the women. I forget where I saw the article on the internet of the female fighters. So yeah, they're ferocious fighters. They don't have any place else to go. So they are basically cornered. Even the map that you showed them in the corner of Syria. So they have no place else to go. So they will fight hard to protect their homeland. They also have the benefit of having some oil wealth in that area, which helps pay some of the bills. So they will continue to fight. They will fight with Turkey. I mean, that's an ongoing conflict as well. I'm not sure what the status is in Iraq. Iraq has enough other issues. They don't need to bring the Kurdish one up just yet.
All right, Jeff, always good having you. And Mark has a question, which is Mark has a question in your set design, what that thing is on the back wall of
This.
your set there. What is that?
That is my book. It was published on Amazon as of the weekend. And it basically, human is human intelligence. That's what I collected. And what it is it's a look at the places and people where I lived with my now ex-wife and my two kids, the different places that we saw, the different experiences that we had, the experiences that my wife went through in New Delhi, where she had to go to the post office to pick up a package that her family had sent. And she had the little card. The card was made out to my daughter, so they wouldn't give it to her, so she had to go back and bring my 15-month-old daughter and her passport, kicking and screaming, to the post office to get this package. And that's just an example of some of the fun things that she went through. It also talks about some of the wonderful countries in the Middle East, and there are some. Oman is one of my personal favorites. That's partially because that's where Sinbad the sailor sailed from, and Sinbad being one of my heroes. So it's a book about those adventures and what I saw while I was there, and the experience that we had
Mark's
in the
trying
many
to get
different
it up
countries.
on Amazon. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Amazon. The what, Mark? Humid for Humanity. Yeah, Humid for Humanity. And are there any like James Bond stories
You have two M's in there. That's the problem.
any James Bond stories, Jeff Bond stories, sleeking around
Um,
the dark alleys of Damascus?
Well, there were, and then of course, because I retired from the agency, they have the right to approve and review anything that mentions my activity with them and to delete it. So they would that much got deleted. So the fun stuff got taken out, so I had to go back in and put some other fun stuff in.
Well, you're a great communicator and writer, and so I want an autographed copy. So I'm going to buy one, and when I see you next time, you can sign it. All right. Any last final thoughts before we sign off for the folks, not just on Cair or Syria, but as we approach this week with the whole Zelensky thing and the Trump EOs and all the activity in the left's head blowing up. Any thoughts?
Well, we're going to see more turmoil before we see peace. That's just what's going to happen. Trump is very good at creating havoc. That's why the last sentence of my book is "Cry Havoc" from Shakespeare. And I don't disagree that, or I think that we need the havoc in order for people to get shaken out of the trees, because we have way, way, way too many government bureaucrats that are stuck in trees, and they have not really been contributing to the overall development of our country. He wants to change that. I don't think of any taxpayer that would disagree with that. We want the maximum efficiency from any business, whether it's IBM or whatever the business may be. We want maximum efficiency and best price. We want the same thing from our government employees.
All right, sounds good, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Sanow right now with me. We're leaving. It's 11 o'clock in a couple of seconds. We'll be back next Monday, the 10th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Have a wonderful week. And contact the United West. Go to our website, theunitedwest.org. Sign up for our newsletters. We send a bunch of stuff out, a lot of good content. Also, send these invitations that you get for this live show to your friends. And who knows? We may expand this to 2 or 3 days a week or every day like we used to do. Until next Monday, stay safe. Have a absolutely wonderful week. Bye-bye.